Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻
Hello and welcome to ForumIAS. Today is 11th August 2023 and these are all the articles that we are going to see today. Let us move to the first article. The first article talks about the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners. There has been a change that is being introduced by the bill, that is the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners appointment, conditions of service and term of office bill 2023, and this bill has been introduced in Rajya Sabha. There is controversy surrounding this bill and we will see why. Before all this came into picture, according to the original constitution, how were the election commissioners, be it the Chief Election Commissioner or the other election commissioners, how were they appointed? Initially, they were appointed by the President after recommendations by the government. But this procedure is a partisan procedure wherein the ruling government is responsible for forming the body that conducts elections for the Lok Sabha as well as state legislative assemblies. If there is more rule for the ruling government in choosing who is going to head the election commissioner or who are going to be the members of election commission, then the ruling party might control the elections indirectly. So this was seen as a provision that is against the rule of law, conduct of electoral democracy, and this particular provision was challenged in the court. And in March 2023, only recently, the Supreme Court said that there should be a selection panel, and this selection panel consists of the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha and the Chief Justice of India. So, if there is a selection panel like this, the role of the ruling government will be limited because only the Prime Minister is part of the ruling government. There is Leader of Opposition who is from the opposition party and the Chief Justice of India who is non-partisan. By this way, the appointment of the election commissioner and the other election commissioners can be depoliticized. Earlier, it might have been a political appointment due to the excessive role of the ruling party. Okay, so this is a way to depoliticize appointment of the CEC and other election commissioners to an independent body like Election Commission. Now, the court said that this particular selection panel, this procedure will be in play until the parliament enacts a new law. Okay, so now the parliament has enacted a new law wherein this selection panel does not contain CJI anymore. There will be the Prime Minister, one cabinet minister and the Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha. Okay, so this 3-member panel will now recommend the name to the President who will then be appointed as the Chief Election Commissioner or the other election commissioners as the case may be. But here the role of CJI has been negated and now what happens? The ruling government's role has been increased because both the Prime Minister and the Cabinet Minister, they are from the ruling party, they are from the government, right? So again, the process of appointment of election commissioners has become politicized. This is against the independence of a non-partisan body like Election Commission. Election Commission must be as independent as possible. Only then fair election process will take place. Only if there is a fair election process, there will be faith of people in electoral democracy. That is why this particular bill is being discussed. Coming to the second article, this article is about the bulldozer politics and the legitimacy of this particular method of meting out justice. Whether it is right or wrong, that is being discussed. And this particular topic is very important for mains and interview as well. Why this is in news? Because of the recent new violence. After this, the local administration, they demolished a number of homes in localities or neighborhoods to which the accused rioters belong. So this is called as Bulldozer Justice. And the author of this article is saying that demolition of homes is a form of frontier justice, wherein justice is not being meted out through formal channels. Rather, meting out justice or giving justice to the victims is taken in the hands of executive itself, which is a violation of the doctrine of separation of powers. So, what is the legal justification that has been given by the authorities to justify such demolitions? They say that these demolitions are being carried out to remove illegal structures or encroachments, and municipal laws authorize removal of such unauthorized structures. Using this law as backup, administrations and state governments are carrying out such demolitions. But though this is given as the outward reason, but the real reason is to teach a lesson to alleged rioters. So this is a kind of an instant justice. That is how it is being touted in political circles. But if we dig deeper, we will see that the structures that we call as unauthorized structures, they are often the dwelling places of economically marginalized and vulnerable people. And the state has failed these people because we have the goal of housing for all. Housing for all by 2022, right? So these people, they have not been covered by this agenda of housing for all by 2022. They were not covered in schemes like Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, right? So they are not been covered on these schemes. They have not gotten benefits of these schemes. They have no other place to live, and that is why they are living in these unauthorized structures. So effectively, we can say that the state has failed these people. The state has failed in its obligation to provide shelter to all its citizens. So what happens is, if a structure, even though it is an illegal structure, it cannot be demolished instantly. There has to be some basic procedures that need to be followed. First, an adequate notice should be given. And then the municipal administration, they must conduct a survey to check whether the residents are eligible for rehabilitation schemes. And the municipal administration must give a sincere try in rehabilitating these people. And if that is not possible, there must be some kind of compensation at least that has to be given, right? It is not the responsibility of the state, because the state is not purchasing land from these people. But nevertheless, if they are evacuated, they are evicted from a particular land, they have nowhere else to go. So some sort of support is provided by the government in terms of rehabilitation, or in terms of some monetary compensation is provided so that they can start their life afresh. So these are all the procedural requirements that has to be followed even if a structure is unauthorized. Why these procedures are put in place? Because the state does not make its own citizens homeless. Suddenly, if the government comes and demolishes a person's house, they become homeless. State cannot make its own citizens homeless. That is the logic behind having all these procedural safeguards. Okay, so this kind of bulldozer politics is seen as a form of frontier justice. What is it? We will see. So instead of going through the machinery of law enforcement and justice, the government, they are taking the law into their own hands. Typically what happens, the government has to approach the judiciary accusing these people of instigating riots. Now the court will find the facts of the case, the court will apply law to these facts, and the court will ascertain whether a person is guilty or innocent. And if they are guilty, the court will mete out the punishment as it is determined in law. And this punishment also is not arbitrary. Whatever punishment is prescribed in law, only that much punishment can be given. Okay, so that is the formal channel for meting out justice. Instead of going into this channel, if the government is going for instant justice, the government itself is becoming a lawbreaker. This bulldozer justice is a populist move. It might satisfy the anger of people who are affected by the riots. But this is not a right procedure to be followed by a government. The government is not a mob which is meting out justice. A government is a formal structure. The government has formulated the laws. If the government themselves are not following the laws, what will be the respect of people towards the laws? That point also we have to think upon. And there is a beautiful sentence that is given in this editorial. The author says that bulldozer justice is a form of collective punishment. What is collective punishment? He is explaining, where punishment is not only meted out before guilt is proven, but along with the supposedly guilty individual, their innocent family members are also punished. So that is collective punishment. The whole family, the whole neighborhood is being punished, even before this person is proven guilty, right? Also, punishment without guilt. That is, punishment at the discretion of the state. Now these people are accused of rioting. It has not been proven. So everybody, according to jurisprudence, is innocent until proven guilty. Right? So punishment without guilt, and the state is becoming very arbitrary when it is doing this. That means anytime the state can come with bulldozer and demolish a person's house. So this violates an important concept of rule of law. Rule of law we would have studied in 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻𝐿 itself, that the executive cannot give arbitrary punishments. Any case, it has to go through a court of law. So what happens? A person's safety is in the mercy of bureaucracy, which is very dangerous. Right? That is why the author is saying, abandoning the rule of law for frontier justice is the first step towards an authoritarian society where one's safety, physical possessions, and even life and liberty will be at the whims and fancies of state officials. So effectively, a person's safety, the safety of their belongings, their life, their personal liberty, everything is determined by the state, which is a sign of an authoritarian society. It is not a rule of law. Rule of law concept will go away in an authoritarian society. There is no rule of law. It will become rule of men. What they say to be correct, that would be correct. What they say to be wrong, that would be wrong. And that is very arbitrary, and it goes against rule of law. For a matured democracy like India, this is a very dangerous precedent. That is what the author is trying to say. Next article is about China's deflation. Why is it discussed widely in news? Because after the COVID-19 pandemic, most of the countries, so when COVID-19 happened, what did the governments do? the governments pumped money into the economy because people were losing their livelihood, people were losing their lives because of the pandemic induced lockdowns. People were at home, some people were jobless. By this reason, the governments of the world, they pumped money into the economy when the pandemic was taking place. Now we are in the aftermath of pandemic. Because so much of money has come into the system, now in major economies of the world, there is inflation. What is inflation? There is a general rise in price levels. That is inflation. That is happening in major economies like US, India, other European countries. But China is being an aberration in this case because there is no inflation in China, there is a deflation. What is deflation? What are the pros and cons of deflation? Why there is deflation in China? We will discuss in this article. Deflation is the general fall in the prices of goods and services in an economy. Say for example, the price is rupees 40 per kg for rice. Okay, in 2018, let us assume that in 2018, let us assume that 1 kg of rice costs rupees 40. In 2019, 1 kg of rice costs rupees 50. So this is inflation. What is deflation? Instead of costing rupees 50, if it costs rupees 30, then it is called as deflation. So this scenario is deflation. So forget about this. Let me rub this out. Okay. So 40 rupees per kg to 30 rupees per kg. So there is a reduction in the price. This is a scenario of deflation. Okay. So general fall in the prices of goods and services in the economy, that is deflation. What are the pros and cons of deflation? Whether deflation is necessary in the economy or not, right? So many economists believe that deflation is a sign of falling demand for goods and services, which could lead to a slowdown in economic growth. Why are they saying so? Because the demand for goods and services is the driver of economic growth. So basically, when does the price level decrease? Price will decrease if there is less demand. Say, let us take the example of the same rice. Now, if there is less demand for rice, people are starting to eat only protein sources and they don't want to take carbs. So if there is very less demand for rice, the price will also decrease. Okay, so that is how deflation happens. If there is a reduction in demand, the price will decrease. So conversely, we can say that if there is deflation, we can safely assume that there is a reduction in demand. If there is reduction in demand, how will economic growth happen? Because there needs to be a healthy level of economic demand. Then only production will happen. If the people are demanding goods and services, then only production will happen. Then only there will be circular flow of money. Only if there is a production, some people will be employed. Only if some people are employed, they will be getting salary. Only if they are getting salary, they will go and demand goods and services. So this is circular flow of income that is happening. If there is falling demand, what is the incentive for businesses to expand production? So they won't expand production. There won't be more people employed. Some people might also lose their jobs. So the money supply in the economy, the circular flow will be disrupted. Okay. Also, buyers can postpone their purchases. Why do they do that? Because I, as a buyer, I might think, okay, yesterday the price was 40 per kg. Today the price is 30 per kg. Maybe tomorrow it will become 20 per kg. When it becomes 20 per kg, it will be still cheaper. Then I will go and buy. So again, if they are postponing their purchases, there also the demand could fall. Again, if the demand is falling, there is a reduction in prices. Next, deflation can lead to business losses. How does it lead to business losses? So let us assume that I am a rice trader and I bought rice from the wholesale market at rupees 40 per kg. Okay, so now the price has fallen to rupees 30 per kg. So I am selling at a higher price than the price I bought the rice. So there is a loss of 10 rupees. That is why deflation is considered to be loss making. It can also mess up credit contracts as borrowers will have to pay back lenders more in real terms. What does this mean? Say for example, I borrowed 100 rupees from you. Okay. In 2018. Let us assume that in 2018, with 100 rupees, I can buy 2 pens. In 2019, what happens? The price level has fallen. There is a deflation. But I have to return only 100 rupees to you. Let us assume that you are all very good people. You are not demanding interest from me. I have to repay only 100 rupees. Okay, but because there is deflation, the same 100 rupees can buy 2 pens and 1 pencil also. So, the value of the same 100 rupee note is more in 2019 because things have become cheaper, right? So, I am returning more than what I borrowed effectively. I borrowed money which would help me buy 2 pens. Now I am returning money which I can buy 2 pens and 1 pencil with. So it causes loss to borrowers. So these are all the cons of deflation. But deflation is not that bad. Why? The author is also discussing pros of deflation. What are the pros of deflation? Let us take the example of Japan. And in Japan, there has been persistent deflation for years. Continuously there was deflation. But still, there was a rise in per capita real income levels, even when deflation was going on. How did this happen? Because this kind of deflation is not because of reduction in demand. It is because there is a rise in supply of goods and services. So if there is more supply of goods and services, then also the price level will fall because the market is flooded with goods and services. If there is more supply, more production is going on, more people are employed, and all these people are getting salaries, right? So even if there is deflation, there is production going on, there is circular flow of money. So this kind of deflation is still acceptable, not the kind of deflation which happens due to fall in demand. Also, even if there is inflation, I already told that some level of inflation is healthy. Only when there is some level of inflation, there is demand. Only if there is demand, production will take place. I said that earlier, right? So, even in countries with high inflation, which is desirable, they can also experience low growth or even negative economic growth. So, even if they are having very good inflation numbers, then also there can be low growth. So, you can't pinpoint deflation to be the single most baddest thing. Okay, so these are all the pros and cons of deflation. Why is China experiencing deflation? First of all, we have to understand that even before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, China's economy was not at a best place because of the property sector in China. and this property sector contributes a significant share to the Chinese GDP. Because this sector was affected, already the Chinese economy was rocky. So we can't say that COVID is causing this kind of deflationary effect in China. Also, we don't yet know the complete cause, or there is no solid theory which is peer reviewed which explains the deflationary trend in China. It is still being studied. But what is very peculiar is that the People's Bank of China, that is the Chinese Central Bank, they are keeping the interest rate low. That means they are pumping money into the economy. There is more money in the Chinese economy. But still, why is there a deflation? That is a puzzling thing on which there is studies going on. So, the Chinese Central Bank, they must probably consider reducing the money supply so that they can battle this deflationary trend. That is the only concrete thing that we can say at this point. Next article. It is about the startups. Around 98,000 startups are recognized by the government of India. And in 2017, there was a new section which was introduced in the Income Tax Act, which was the Section 80 IAC. And this particular Section 80 IAC, it provided exemptions for startups from paying income tax in their initial years of operation. But it is said that only 1% of this recognized startups, they have gotten this tax benefit. And what is more alarming is that only 10% of the startups, they have applied for this tax concession. So this shows that this government benefit, it hasn't reached all the startups. What is going on here? That has been flagged by a parliamentary panel. Also, this parliamentary committee talked about something called as fair market value of shares. What is fair market value? Say for example, there is a startup XYZ Limited. This particular company wants to be sold in the market. What is today's value of the shares of this XYZ Limited? That is fair market value of shares. For the purpose of UPSC exam, you understand only this much. There are various methods to compute what is the fair market value of shares. But that is not important. The panel is just saying that the method to compute this fair market value of shares, it must be unambiguous. There is more clarity needed. Why there is clarity needed? This fair market value is important for attracting investments. Depending on the fair market value only, investments will be made into this startup, whether be it domestic investment or foreign investment. Okay. So these are all the issues that have been highlighted by a parliamentary panel. Moving on to the next article. Indian GPS Navi to be linked to Aadhaar enrollment devices. Earlier, when Aadhaar enrollment happened, GPS, that is the Global Positioning System. Global Positioning System. GPS was used in Aadhaar enrollment. Now, the Desi GPS Navi is going to be used. Okay, so Desi GPS is going to be used. We use GPS in our daily lives in Google Maps. Whenever we travel by cabs, the cab drivers also navigate using Google Maps, which runs on this GPS. Now we have to understand from prelims perspective what is this Desi GPS Navi. Okay, so Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, IRNSS. Navik's another name is IRNSS. Okay, so this Navik consists of 3 geostationary Earth orbit satellites, and 4 geosynchronous satellites, 3 geostationary satellites, and 4 geosynchronous satellites. So totally there are 7 satellites, and these 7 satellites are at 29 degrees to the equator. So let us assume that this is the Earth. This is the Earth. We have the equator. We have the axis of the Earth and 29 degrees. In this orbital plane, in this 29 degree inclination only, these 7 satellites are rotating, revolving around the Earth. So here they have given the geostationary satellites are given in black, and these 4 satellites are the geosynchronous satellites. See how they are focusing on India. And these 7 satellites together, they focus on 1500 kilometers around India. Comparatively, American GPS has 24 satellites, so it covers the entire Earth. But these 7 satellites cover 1500 kilometers around India. And this IRNSS will provide 2 types of services. One is standard positioning service, which can be used by all people. And second one is the restricted service, which is provided only to governments and militaries. There are many applications of IRNSS. Wherever GPS can be used, IRNSS can be used. It is used in terrestrial, aerial, marine navigation, disaster management, vehicle tracking and fleet management, precise timing mapping and geodetic data capture, terrestrial navigation aid for hikers and travelers, visual and voice navigation. Whenever we travel in cabs, we see the cab drivers using voice navigation, right? That runs on GPS. One more important thing is the rubidium clocks. Each satellite has 3 rubidium clocks. Why are rubidium clocks important? Because location is composed of time as well as space. Say for example, you are traveling from Delhi to Agra and you are using Google Maps, or in our case you are using the IRNSS to navigate. So at this point in time, you are in this point in the road, and when you move, time also moves, you also move. So you have to capture both time as well as space to provide exact location of a person. To provide accurate time, this rubidium clock is being used. There are 3 rubidium atomic clocks in each satellite. Now, let us discuss some previous year question. In a given year in India, official poverty lines are higher in some states than in others because, say for example, let us take the example of Tamil Nadu, where the poverty line, let us assume that the poverty line is rupees 25 per day. We are just assuming this. I don't know the exact data. And we consider another state. For example, we can take the example of Jharkhand. So in Jharkhand, it is only 18 per day. Why is there a difference? Because what is poverty? Let us assume that poverty is defined as the inability to purchase 2 square meals per day. Okay. So having 2 square meals per day might cost rupees 25 in Tamil Nadu. It might cost only rupees 18 in Jharkhand, right? So you understand, it is because of the cost that there is different poverty line in different state. The cost of same goods and services might be different in different part of the country. That is, the inflation level in a particular region determines the purchasing power of a person. Okay, the same thing is available for different prices in different cities, different states. So that is why the poverty line is also different in different states. Answer is price levels vary from state to state. Poverty rates vary from state to state is wrong, because this poverty rate itself is determined by this poverty line. How many people are below this line? How many people not even can spend rupees 25 per day? They are the people who are poor in a state, and that is poverty rate in a state. So poverty rate doesn't determine poverty line, it is the other way around. The poverty line determines the poverty rate. Gross state product varies from state to state. This is also wrong, because a state's domestic product, GSDP, it can be more, but there can be more number of poor people. So there is no connection between that GSDP and the poverty line. Quality of public distribution, it is one of the solution for poverty. It doesn't determine the poverty line. So the answer is price levels vary from state to state. B is the answer. Next question. In the context of which one of the following are the terms pyrolysis and plasma gasification mentioned? It is in the context of waste to energy. Pyro means fire. Using fire to reduce waste to energy is called as pyrolysis. Gasification is conversion of domestic waste into biogas. So, plasma gasification, pyrolysis are used in the context of waste to energy technologies. That's it for today's discussion. Follow us on all these social media platforms. This is 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻𝐿𝐿 signing off for today. Thank you and all the best.